looking at the latest figures, there was like $20 million of one hairbrush sold on TikTok in 1 month. So it's just like, that's why I say if you're starting out, you're not going to get that on an Amazon because you've got to do the awareness piece and stuff like that.
Welcome to another episode of Selling Strategies. Today, we are talking about all things TikTok Shop. So I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people out there who are excited to hear what Stu Conroy has to say from Highlands. You just want to give us a quick introduction?
Thanks for having me on, Kieran. I'm Stu Conroy. I'm a director at Highlands. We're a multi-channel sales and marketing agency. So we'll be talking about TikTok Shop today, but we help brands navigate lots of channels and where that fits in with their whole overall commercial strategy.
So first question, and it might sound a bit daft given the world that we're in now and how popular TikTok is, but why TikTok Shop? Let's say I'm a seller, I've got my own website and I'm selling on Amazon, maybe a couple of other channels too. What's in it for me as a brand getting access to or getting my products out on TikTok Shop?
I think the key thing is that over the last few years, the social media companies have said we influence a lot of sales, and TikTok has led the way in making it easy to translate that influence into transactional behavior. So Meta have tried it, and we've seen recently they've launched in America working with Amazon, but TikTok have really led the way in that frictionless commerce and putting your products in front of an audience and making it simple for them to purchase straight away.
Yeah, I like that term, just frictionless commerce, because that is what really speaks to it. I just think as well, it's important to touch on this multi-channel interplay. So, for example, if I got my products on TikTok Shop, but I've also got them on Amazon, like someone's probably going to go and buy them on Amazon anyway. So what's the value in that sense in terms of having my stuff out there in TikTok Shop?
Yeah, so again, it's about getting the strategy right. So we've seen recently, and we haven't got enough data to back it up and say this is new behavior, but we've noticed products being purchased on TikTok when they're the same price as website or Amazon. But I think there's a new, younger generations in particular are using TikTok for search. Me, I'm going to go, if I see something on social, I'm probably going to go to Amazon, probably going to go to a website and research. But all of that's happening on a platform. So in that sense, there's a new kind of wave of just staying on the platform, which is obviously what TikTok want. In other situations, we've seen what we call the halo effect, where you do activity on TikTok and particularly higher ticket items. So, there's going to be more research. So you're going to go and check reviews. You're going to go and want to see more information. You might trust the authenticity of somebody showing you a product through live or video shopping. But at the same time, you're going to go to other channels. And that's where, we saw it in Q4, Amazon Prime delivery is trusted. So you're going to go, I want that. I trust Amazon Prime. You might buy it there. So it's impact across the whole platforms. But we're also seeing now that people are researching and staying on platform, which is interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely. I think the stats are, it's about over 50%, just over 50% of Gen Zers using TikTok now as a search engine. Yeah,
so, some of the guys in the office, they're using it for everything from recipes to travel to all of these different elements. And they're seeing, and I've noticed it more in my daily conversations with family or friends, people saying, I saw this on TikTok. I saw that on TikTok. I discovered this on TikTok. Many people still think it's a channel of funny dances, but others are really seeing this search engine from everything from shopping to research and reviews.
Can you speak to the differences in the audience types, say like on a TikTok Shop versus, whether Facebook or Instagram, for example? Like, are they more active? Are they more engaged? Like, what does it look like from that standpoint?
I'd say they're more engaged. We see different behaviors on some of the channels, and Facebook, still lots of communities and groups that are using that as a platform. YouTube is for research, but I think it's that whole, entertainment piece on TikTok that's keeping people absorbed. Lots of them have to be careful, because if it's too much selling, then it's going to put people off, because they are just going there. There's not really intent at the moment still for purchase when you go on there. So it's influence. They've narrowed that step to going, I'm influenced, I want to buy this product. Yeah, I think there's a fine line of, how much activity is on there in a good way. And I'm sure there's some, people are scrolling too much on there. So, the dangers of social media as well. We have to be careful with that.
Yeah, and we'll talk more about the content because that is a key piece when we're talking about TikTok. But I just want to talk a bit about in terms of sectors. Like, I think TikTok Shop US launched in September of last year, and 85% of products sold were beauty and care. So obviously beauty, care, cosmetics, jewelry. Okay, you're winning on TikTok Shop. But so I suppose a couple of points. What are some of the other popular sectors? And if I'm in one of those less popular, like more niche sectors, is that enough of a reason to not go on TikTok Shop, or is there still a place for me?
Those products you mentioned, that's leading the way, and that's been typical of what's happened in Asia. It's been happening for a lot longer in terms of social commerce, and I think they'll continue. But I don't know if you saw the Stanley thermos that went viral because I think it was a house or a car blew up and the thermos flask survived, and then their sales gone nuts, people buying. So if that was available for purchase, but that's not going to happen for every brand, and it's really understanding, should you be advertising on social or should you make your products available there? So is it awareness piece? And it comes to a number of factors like, the cost of those products. Are they better off just doing awareness rather than the cost of integrations and everything like that, which, is cheaper than it was, 2.5 years ago. Linnworks, you've got your own solution. So all of those things are enabled now. So it is less prohibitive to have it on there. And I also think if you look at the technology that TikTok's got in development, where every video you'll be able to click on a product and it will search their catalog to say if that's available, similar to how you can use a photo on Amazon or Google. But you'll be able to do that from videos. So I think, I wouldn't say any product's going to sell, but at the same time, why not have it in the catalog? And we advise brands to really just start owning the space now and make sure your products are on there and your brand's available on there, because you can't ignore social commerce and what's happening.
Let's swing back around to content, because this is what it all comes down to with TikTok Shop. It's transforming the way people consume content online, and other social media platforms are adapting to keep up. So I've got two related questions here. The first is, what is it about the content on TikTok that is resonating so deeply with, particularly Gen Zers, of course, but beyond that as well? So
it's a commonly used word, authenticity. There's a trust factor. Maybe I'm a little bit cynical. Some of the reviews, you're not always sure, but if people are, so it's that authenticity and demonstration of what how a product's going to either solve a problem for you or serve one of your aspirations. It's going to improve your life in a certain way, and it's very raw. I think a lot of brands look at it; they've got to be polished, and it's like you see some of the content, and it's like, wow, it's back to the rawest stages of the early days of YouTube. And it may it may change over time, might become a little bit more polished. You'll get more channels that are polished, but we saw Kanye West at the Super Bowl this weekend blow up with just talking into a phone. So the world's changing in terms of what people trust.
And is that so? When you say authenticity, so is that what you mean? Just like less polished, high production video, for example. If it's just someone talking into a phone, it just feels more real.
Yeah, and different circumstances, and and the different settings, and there's a psychology of if you're going to trust somebody who's in a dentist's outfit or a doctor's outfit, but that's done in more relaxed ways on the platform. It feels like. So I think that all of these elements add up to a more authentic. When we try to explain it to brands in the early stages, it's like it's QVC but for a modern era, and it's a different type of content. But I think people tune into QVC because they trust the demonstration and the presentation, and it's just taking that to decentralizing that for creators, and they've got their audience already. They have their trust, so they're just showing them products that make sense to them.
That's a good comparison. Just the QVC, that makes total sense. Following on from that, if you're a brand on TikTok, you understand, authenticity and the sort of types of content that you're seeing. So how do I need to adapt my content strategy in order to have that same impact?
We've seen brands try and, they've got Instagram, the Meta platforms, they understand how they work, and they're doing things there. And then they see TikTok and they suddenly feel like they've got to be a totally different brand, in a sense you do, but at the same time, that may not be an in-house skill. So I think the level of creators that you have on TikTok, you can tie into them and use their skills. They know how to build the content that people are watching. So I think that's the key piece, is leverage the tools that are available from those people that have built audiences or know how to build those hooks, how to build that content that really resonates with the audience to sell your products.
So just digging into that a bit then. So how do I, again, if I'm a brand, so I'm selling men's moisturizer and I don't have the in-house resource or expertise, so I want to tap into that kind of TikToker creator network. But what would be the steps for me to do that?
Key thing is the starting point is just getting your products on the platform. So we help brands with synchronization, understanding, whether it's Linnworks, other companies may be a little bit unable to use those sort of solutions. So we build solutions to get the products live and make sure things like the product syncs are in place. It's key because if you go viral, you need to have your stock control in place. Otherwise, it's customer service nightmare. So you try and avoid those. And then when your products are on there, then you get access to the creator network. So you can either, you make them available so people can see your offers and you say, right, sell this product and we'll give you the free sample and 10% of any sales you make, which feels a lot fairer to brands, that they're not having to pump out money for content that might not work and, fingers crossed, all that stuff. But then you can also tap into reaching out to the creators that you want to work with through various search mechanisms to find who's going to resonate with your audience and build relationships that way. It's very similar to Shopify, launch Shopify collabs, and it works in the same way. So you can see all of the different metrics of the engagement levels of their content, their reach, all of those sort of elements. So it's there's a bit of work involved, but then, for lots of brands, we talk about content. Everybody knows they've got to do more content, but they're all busy running their business. And it's like, okay, so how do we do it? So TikTok enables you to tap into this whole network of creators. And then you can also get them to create content for your channel as well. So just one-off videos and things like that. But it's been a learning cycle of seeing what resonates. And then it is still early days of testing. Lots of companies are out of shape because they want to get involved, but they don't really know all the steps to get to that point.
People not knowing what that first step is so useful. And I think the stock control piece is pretty critical as well, because I suppose the allure of going viral on TikTok is one thing, but then, if you don't have your kind of stock control in place on the back end, then, you could be damaging your brand before you're even getting off the ground, really.
Yeah, exactly. And, so the early stages of TikTok, we've been a partner of theirs for 2.5 years, and the launch came very quickly. We were doing live shows for brands on Shopify, and then suddenly TikTok said they're going live. Could we help brands get on there? And Linnworks none of the solutions were available at that point. So it's evolved, thankfully, and at speed. There's more solutions out there now to facilitate that for brands.
Any common mistakes that you see brands making that are on TikTok Shop that whether easy to avoid or otherwise?
I think from what we just spoke about is not using the tools that are at your fingertips, really, with the creators that can work. And I sold products for 18 years before we got into agency land. And I know you get bombarded, everybody's giving you solutions. So we try and cut through that a little bit of working what's right for brands, but also that piece where you try and think you have to do something crazily different. There's a lot of bad content on there, I'd say, from brands. Without being disrespectful, they're trying to do something that's authentic, but it just comes across as like not right. It's less authentic because they're just trying too hard. But other than that, I think, I'd say the biggest mistake we see from brands is not doing it. And that's the bit. For bigger brands, it's a challenge as well because social commerce is new. So do you talk to the social media manager, the marketing manager, the e-commerce manager, the sales manager? I was around, when we started selling on Amazon, big brands avoided Amazon in many ways, selling through the platform. But you had Amazon vendor, so you could sell to Amazon, whereas you haven't got that this time. And a lot of sales teams took control of the Amazon conversation. Social commerce has changed that. We've experienced it, like who do you get into the meeting from the brand to own it, to own that, and really the metrics and performance, because it's that blend of social media and e-commerce.
So has that reached a point where there is a clear owner, or that's still a battleground at the moment?
Still a battleground. Still a battleground. Yeah, still conversations. And when we launched, so 2.5 years ago, and brands were going, "Where's the case studies? Where's the case studies?" And it's like, well, it's just launched. So you either believe in the whole concept of social commerce and this frictionless. It was easy to say, was it? Neither is TikTok Shop. Frictionless commerce as a future channel for you. And then what do you need to facilitate that? That's the piece that you've got to get the right people in the room. So we've learned as well who we need to speak to, because the social media people generally don't understand e-commerce, and the e-commerce team benefit from the social media rather than being intrinsically involved with them.
Now, is there an advantage of launching on TikTok Shop if I'm a business of a certain size? So again, just an example, say, got my websites set up on Shopify, but that's it. And just my next step, I'm looking to get out on TikTok Shop, versus a larger organization where I've got my website and I'm selling on 5+ marketplaces, Amazon, eBay, maybe Walmart in the US.
Yeah, if I was starting out today, I would 100% dive into TikTok Shop. Obviously, there's, like we said about some products might not be the right fit, but certainly for those sectors you mentioned, the fashion, the beauty, and then tech accessories and all of these sort of things, it offers you've got the audience there. And one of the biggest challenges for small businesses is how do you get audience? And to me, the virality of TikTok allows that piece, and you haven't got the challenge of being on all of these other platforms. I consulted with a number of small brands and got them set up on Amazon, set up on Shopify, but focus the awareness piece on TikTok to get the audience build. When you've got bigger brands, more established brands, it's navigating that. How does that interact with the channels? So there's been an ongoing conversation since digital arrived. How do you match up these different sales channels with what you're doing in retail or B2B channels? So it is a bit more considered, but it's still a great opportunity to launch new products or do bundled packs or exclusive lines, because you want the customer to try your products for the first time, or particularly in the product launch, it's a great way of raising awareness and getting a campaign purely around TikTok that benefits the other channels.
Any successful customer stories that you could share with us? Yeah,
so we work with a beauty brand. We got them trained up. So again, because I sat the other side of the table, I always want to help brands and make sure that what's fit for them. And every client has a different range of in-house skills. So one beauty brand, they had the time to do 2 to 3 hours of live a day. And at the start, live was the big push. We all thought live was going to take off. I think it will come back and be dominant as it has been in Asia. But they were selling into retail and they were selling on Amazon or about to sell on Amazon. But their TikTok sales went crazy, so they just stayed on TikTok. So if you're doing well over there, do you need to do the other channels at that point? And then we've seen a headphone brand that did a load of live shows on TikTok, didn't get any sales, but their Amazon and ecom sales increased. It was in Q4 as well. So again, that trust in the early stages of TikTok was more from Amazon or a website, but we've seen now, I think there was, looking at the latest figures, there was like $20 million of one hairbrush sold on TikTok in 1 month. So it's just like, that's why I say if you're starting out, you're not going to get that on an Amazon, because you've got to do the awareness piece and stuff like that. Yeah, there's other companies that were a little bit under NDA for some of the bigger ones. I mean, some are out in the open, companies like Zara. So all of these brands are looking at it. L'Oreal have been there since the early stages. We did some work with those more through resellers and distributors. So, it's been taken seriously, and the big brands reacted slowly in many ways to Amazon 20 years ago. And now they're on board a lot quicker. And I think that's what you're going to see significantly in the next 18 months, that most of the big brands will be on there strategically working out how to use the platform for their bigger sales.
I suppose just more digitally mature companies are compared to, say, 20 years ago,
I started selling on Amazon in 2003, but there was no smartphones. Broadband, was a lot slower. So the iPhone changed a lot, and look at consumer behavior, and I think that's why this will accelerate very quickly for the consumers to actually adopt it. It's a lot quicker than the challenges. Nobody trusted putting their credit cards online 20 years ago. Now it's kind of again the norm, and I think we've seen with TikTok over the last 2 years that the amount of people that have purchased through TikTok, even if it's a small purchase, but they've gone through the process of paying for something on the channel. So that trust has been built very quickly, where 20 years ago it was a lot slower. What
about if you're looking to expand internationally? Say like I'm a UK seller looking to access US market, or I'm a US seller and maybe tap into like the Asian kind of marketplaces. Does TikTok support that in any way? I mean, you can get your products onto TikTok Shop, but just that international, that global enablement piece.
We became a TikTok partner in the US, and obviously, like Amazon, like any of these platforms, you have to have the legal, financial, and taxation pieces set up. But yeah, it's geographically ring fenced, so you have to adopt that sort of approach, that it's a different audience. You're not going to be kind of crossing over in that sense. But you can open up different shops under a main channel. Yeah, we haven't really looked at. So it was only the UK and Indonesia when it first launched. And there's other platforms in Asia that are dominant in using live and video content. So yeah, not so much linked up at this point. There's been talks for it to open up in Europe. There's obviously the political element in the US. We'll see what happens in the elections and what's going on there. But also you've got, I think the Amazon partnership with Meta is significant. So it was interesting to see them partner up last year, which is now live now in the US. Yeah, I think you've got to get the strategies and understand what's right in which country.
Now, I'm sure everyone agrees social commerce is the future, and the stats kind of back this up. I think 2022 global sales and social media is up around 900 billion. That's forecast to get to 8.5 trillion by 2030, which is like a 10x increase over just 8 years. So I suppose the question is, how do you see like this axis of e-commerce tilting or evolving over the next few years? You've mentioned live. You think there's going to be a comeback there, not just on TikTok itself, but I suppose looking at these other platforms as they're looking to catch up, really.
Yeah, and I mean, Amazon's been doing live in the US since I think about 2018, but it just never took off in the same way. I think not everyone agrees social commerce is going to take off. There's people still want it to go back to 1994 or whatever. But yeah, I think it's an important part. And with everything we've talked about, like smartphones and how people are consuming information, I think it's going to be a significant part. But within our islands, we took the view that we have to be multi-channel. So we still believe physical environments for purchasing will be significant for many years to come. And that's the bit, is building that piece where you can say where the customers are. So what you're offering on TikTok may be slightly different to what you offer up in retail or B2B channels, but it's where everybody's spending their time. I got the train down here today, looking at the phone, social media, isn't it? So the ability to then see something and just click the button, I think is going to be major, but I wouldn't ignore the other channels because I think they're still going to be important. And I took a view a few years ago that if everybody goes to sell online, the costs are going to go up. So they're going to become prohibitive. And we're seeing that with some of the platforms, that the costs are really spiking in the last 6 months. So it's important to have, some risk management over where the cheapest traffic, or not just the cheapest, where your customers are and how you can influence the sale.
Things we've seen, just, businesses that started out online, they're kind of doing their brick and mortar pop-ups now and stuff like that. Whereas a few years ago, brick and mortar was the standard, online was the additive, and now it seems to be flipping a little bit.
So if you look at all the innovation that's going on in retail, it's all about what happens in the store. You've got these talented salespeople in retail, and if people aren't coming in, you have the technology now to go out to the audience. So that's what I'd be using if I was a retailer, is use some space in your store to go and reach new audiences. And they're on TikTok, they're on you can get them onto the website. Marks and Spencer's are doing a lot of work on live commerce. So I think we're going to see that dynamic change, because it's tough on the high street, because of rent rates and all of these sort of legislations. So yeah, interesting times to go forward with.
So what just 3 pieces of advice for any online retailer who is looking to add TikTok Shop as a channel?
Start would be the first one. I think that's the important piece. And I know I bang on about what went on with Amazon 20 years ago, but people ignored it. And I think you can't ignore this because of the numbers that are going through social commerce, TikTok in particular. So I think you've just got to start. Use the tools available would be another one. So don't think that your person in accounts suddenly has to be a crazy sort of salesperson, and with any channel, you've got to do the research of what's right for you. And a third one, just get the strategy right and understand where it's going to fit in. You know, I was a small seller on Amazon, so I could be agile, and I think that's where a lot of small businesses are succeeding. I was with a makeup brand yesterday, absolutely smashing it. She's an interesting character, actually. No commercial background. She was went through arts and drama school, but knows how to talk to an audience, absolutely smashing it. So if you're small, get that strategy right. Still got to understand the basics of running an operation. And then for big brands, it's just understand it's not just a discount channel. It's a strategic awareness and on commerce platform that you can utilize to build sales and have that authentic conversation with your audience.
That's everything. Stu Conroy, thanks for being here. Any chance of you becoming a TikToker in the near future?
Well, I've done a few bits, but yeah, it's not my. I'm behind the scenes sort of person. So, but yeah, no, thanks for having me, Kieran.